Hello, West Ham Network. It's Holly, and I hope you're all having a brilliant week. With the news that Ibrahim Osman seems to have signed a pre-contract with Brighton for a transfer in the summer, it has brought up the topic of how well at West Ham we actually recruit new players. For 19.5 million euros, Osman could be an absolute bargain, but he is also a risk because he's unproven technically in the Premier League. But we know that Brighton's recruitment strategy is second to none. But after we were linked, the question is, does this show that we basically sat back and potentially missed out on an incredible talent that could have made a real difference at West Ham? So one of the main reasons that the transfer wasn't pursued by us was that Sullivan apparently thought that it was too much of a risk. And it was reported pretty widely as well, including from In the Nose during the transfer window, that our inability to agree behind the scenes was one of the things that regularly holds West Ham back from being able to sign new players, because basically we can't have a general consensus of who is worth spending the money on. So Brighton were able to get this done, interestingly, outside of the transfer window, showing that when push comes to shove, clearly it is possible to tempt players over to your club. There is a lot of question marks over how much a pre-contract actually means. Apparently, it's not really worth the paper that it's written on. But obviously, if you do have the agreement with the agent, with the player, it opens up those conversations to make it nice and simple next transfer window. But we all know that there are risks with every single player that you might sign. You look at players that we've signed that have been incredible, like Bowen, that we probably wouldn't have expected at the time. You've got to take a risk with players to be able to get them in. And if you can see the attributes that they've got that you think you need at your club, that's the kind of players that you need to be signing. While we might all get very excited, and I'm 100% guilty with this, when you see a highlights reel of a player that you're looking to sign, it's easy to get very disappointed and wonder whether you've missed out or whether we have actually dodged a bullet. So today we're going to be taking a look at some of the players that we missed out on over the last summer transfer window and where those players are now, to basically work out whether we did dodge bullets or whether we missed out on some absolute steals. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up as well. And make sure you leave a comment to share your take on it all. So the first player that we're going to be looking at is Yuri Alberto. So he was the player that Tim Stuyton apparently flew to Brazil for and tried to negotiate with. Stuyton had flown to Amsterdam at this point, so hopes were very high, but unlike Alvarez and Cadiz, he was unable to come back with his man. Now, he was the subject of a failed last-minute attempt by Wolves in January, who again could not come to an agreement, which suggests that the rumours about the agent wanting too much from us could have been true. They called it financial differences, is how they worded it, basically saying that they had a disagreement with the player's agent about his value, which sounded very similar to what happened to us. So it could have been that the player was just asking too much. But Alberto stayed at Corinthians, and he has scored just one goal in the first 6 games of the season. Their season starts a bit later than ours. And he's been playing for less and less minutes as the season goes on, so clearly hasn't made as much of an impact as they had hoped, getting just over 30 minutes of game time in each of their last 2 fixtures. So not a fantastic start for him, one we could have potentially missed out on. Fortunately. So Youssef En-Nesyri, he is a player that we've been linked with since what feels like the beginning of time, doesn't it? But surprisingly, we weren't actually linked with him in January, from what I know. He decided to stay at Seville. In a total of 26 games in all competitions, he has scored 11 goals and got 2 assists, which, to put this into perspective, would currently make him West Ham's second highest goal scorer this season, behind Bowen's 14 goals, but ahead of Kudus on 9 and Souček on 8. Hugo Ekitike, he joined Eintracht Frankfurt in January after a lack of playing time at PSG. He only made 1 appearance for PSG this season, playing 8 minutes in their first game of the season, and he hasn't been in their squad since. Once on loan at Eintracht Frankfurt, he made his debut against FC Köln, playing 13 minutes, and that is the summary of his entire season so far, so there isn't very much for us to recap. Eintracht Frankfurt have apparently been really worried about his lack of fitness already, and there's an option to buy him at the end of the season, but it doesn't look as though this was going to be activated. The reports that came out last actually said that they removed him from the main group of training to put him in an individual working group to basically work on his fitness, so that does not scream fantastic start to his time there. Harry Maguire, he won Premier League Player of the Month in November, and then he got injured. Given our defensive challenges, he could have been one that was decent to sign, but it was said that he wanted to fight for his place at United, so the player chose to stay where he was. His groin injury kept him out from December until February, so we wouldn't have had him for very long at the club at this point, should we have signed him. Missing a total of 5 Premier League games, he made his first start in that 3-0 win against us, ironically. It always happens to West Ham. Why does it always happen to West Ham? Every single time there's a player that's coming back from injury, or a player that we missed out on, or a player that we were linked with, you can guarantee that they'll either win or score against us. We have got Maatsen. He's the left back that was playing out of position at Chelsea every now and again. It looks like basically with Ben Chilwell and Kukurea, he was never going to have the opportunity that he wanted. And in January, he went to Dortmund on loan and at the same time signed a new deal with Chelsea until 2026. So this is going to make him a lot more expensive should anybody want to sign him. He made 15 appearances for Chelsea, but just 3 of those were starts. At Dortmund, he's played 4 games, helping him keep 3 clean sheets, and he's already got 1 assist. So decent start to his time there. But again, Emerson is playing so well that it looks unlikely that he'd be getting any game time that he would want and expect if he had signed for West Ham, because why would we drop Emerson when he's playing so well? So as a backup, he would be an outstanding backup and definitely competition for Emerson as well. But again, he would not have got the game time that he would have been expecting, I would imagine, should we be playing Emerson in the way that we are. He's doing very well. So Filip Kostic, he is a left winger that we were linked with in the summer. He's still at Juventus with a grand total of 4 assists in 21 games. And he is also 31 years old. So it doesn't sound as though he's at the level that we'd have wanted, even short term. And at that age, his value is going to be plummeting. So it could have been a good one to miss out on there. Lingard, Jay Lings, we have to mention him. He was linked with us in the summer. He's been linked with us many times since he left. And it definitely has every time divided fan opinion. After training with West Ham, it looked as though there was a decent chance that we would actually be seeing him join. You were seeing all the pictures coming out of the training ground. We needed some backup potentially in that position. Some were firmly against the idea, but others thought, including me, that if we could get him at an absolute bargain, that he could just be a decent backup option, just in addition to the side, to be honest. But again, it really relied on it being on our terms, not on his. Reports suggested that we didn't sign him because we felt we had enough cover in that position, ironically, looking back with Fornals, Benny and Cornet. But Lingard has remained a free agent until he signed for FC Seoul recently in South Korea. A very different move to what you would have expected to see back when he was scoring all those goals for West Ham. If you'd have said between then and now how his career has gone, it would have been quite the shock. But that's football for you. And it's also been said by the Daily Mail, if you can believe them, that he will be on £17,500 a week, which is a massive drop to what he would have been used to. Very, very interesting. And again, I just think this shows as well that when players do make the wrong choice and maybe stay to sort of fight for their place at a club like Man United, where you're not promised anything, your career literally can just dwindle completely. We have Conor Gallagher. He has remained at Chelsea. He's captained them a fair few times, which is good for him. He was linked with Tottenham for 50 million, I believe, in January, but again, nothing materialised. And in 31 games, he has scored 1 goal and got 6 assists. Considering the price tag of somewhere around 50 million, you would expect more than this, even if he does have good leadership qualities. So again, I was one that was quite disappointed that we'd missed out on him. But looking back, I don't know if we missed out incredibly. Then we have got Andy Irving. Now, we're going to talk about this just quickly. It's one of the strangest signings in West Ham history, potentially. We've had some strange ones. So for anyone that doesn't know, because this kind of slips onto the radar, the various FAs announced that we had signed the midfielder on deadline day last summer, but West Ham never announced it at all. There was no signing. You can't even find a picture of him in a West Ham shirt online, meaning that it actually just disappeared and went completely under the radar. Why? I have absolutely no idea. So yeah, he is a West Ham player, believe it or not, and there was no announcement, no pictures, no signing, no tweet, nothing, no announcement. He just completely snuck in as a West Ham player. Now, according to various sources and Transfer Market, he was signed in August. We've sent him out on loan to Klagenfurt, who are 5th in the Austrian league, I believe. And we're meant to have some kind of partnership with them as an affiliate club and use them a bit like a sort of a feeder club to send players out on loan to, and they can send some of their players to us. But again, nothing has been said since. So it's a really, really, really strange one. I couldn't go without mentioning this because we weren't just linked with him. We signed this guy. And yeah, with Klagenfurt, seems a very random one. And we've also had no players come our way from them or sent anyone out on loan to them. And having feeder clubs is amazing. There's lots of teams that have done it really successfully in the Premier League with other leagues and being able to sort of really get untapped talent, I suppose, ahead of other teams. But just thought I would bring that one up because that's a very strange one. If anyone didn't know, Andy Irving, West Ham player. And last but certainly not least, Dominic Solanke, he was one that we were linked with last summer. There were rumours that we'd had a £40 million bid rejected, and the reports didn't really go public until after the window had closed. That was when all the sort of articles started coming out. He stayed at Bournemouth in the end after interest basically died down following the bid, and since he has gone on to do what I can only describe as he's smashing it. He's currently the top English goal scorer in the Premier League, above the likes of Watkins, Bowen, Palmer. In 26 games, he has an impressive 15 goals and 2 assists, including scoring in both games against us this season. Again, of course, the curse of West Ham. And this could be definitely one that we do regret missing out on, as his price tag is going to have increased a fair amount. That said, though, at the time, 40 million did feel like quite a lot for Solanke, particularly considering he had scored just 7 goals and got 7 assists the season before. But now it feels as though it would have been a solid investment, of course. But hindsight always makes it a little bit easier. But would we have looked a tad crazy to have gone above 40 million for him at the time? I reckon we probably would have. And again, would we have actually brought what he's capable of doing out of him in the same way that Bournemouth have this season? You never know. So it's not necessarily that we'd have got the same Dominic Solanke that we're looking at the moment. But it wouldn't surprise me if we did go in for him again in the summer. But again, I'd be amazed if we can get him for any less than like 60 million, given his current form. Not actually sure how long he's got left on his contract, which is interesting. So as you can see from these players and their current form, there are some that we did miss out on and some that also did pretty badly and that we haven't missed out on at all. So for me, Solanke and Maatsen are 2 that have performed really well since we were linked with them. But either of those could come around again if we did want to sign them. It might just be that they're a little bit more expensive because obviously they're doing well, which is how the wonderful game of football works. And it's difficult at the time to not become frustrated with not signing certain players, particularly when they look promising. But it does go to show that every player is a potential risk. They might be doing it well at one club. It doesn't mean they're going to come and do well at your club, and likewise they might be doing well at their current club and they might just completely go downhill. So you never know. But the big thing that we need to be able to do is find the players, get them in, and then help them thrive. That's what we need to do, and we should have the team now behind the scenes to get these players. And yeah, some of those that we have been linked with last summer, they would have potentially been great additions to the West Ham sides, but definitely not all of them. And I know that I have watched highlights videos. I mean, so disappointed when interest has died down or another club's got them or they've stayed where they are. But it does go to show that I know very little about football, basically. But let us know in the comments which of these players, if any, you regret us not managing to sign last summer, and if you would like us to make a fresh approach for them again when the transfer window opens, because we definitely need some new fresh blood in West Ham, don't we? So it'll be an interesting one to see what happens next window. We have got a massive job ahead of us. This is just to kind of give a little recap of last summer, what we missed out on. Everyone says it's hard to sign players in January. It is not impossible, as we've seen from what Brighton have managed to do. But, well, I say sign players, at least start tapping people up. But it's always baffling when you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, because you question, are we actually doing work behind the scenes all year round? Or are we sort of going fresh into it when the window opens and starting doing our business slowly then? Because we need to be ready to attack in summer. We've got so many positions that we need, so many positions we need cover for. And if we want to beat our rivals, currently we've got European football. We're in a decent position in the league. Hopefully we will be at this time when the summer transfer window opens. We have opportunities to actually go and do really well. Stuyton's done a really good job of kind of talking people to get the signature on the line. So all we need to do is just do that, get them in, and then just make them thrive. That's easy, right? That's the theory anyway. So let us know what you think about those summer. And also, if there are any other signings that we haven't mentioned here, that we haven't been linked with before, that you would be interested to see in West Ham, because yeah, it's going to be a very interesting and telling summer transfer window. I really do think it's going to actually determine the next couple of seasons, because we're either going to go up or down from here. So anyway, thank you so much as always for watching, and until next time, have a great day and come on you minds.